This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, promoting the free enterprise system to enhance economic competitiveness. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and welcome back to Delegate John OBannon. We appreciate your being with us here as the month of December is soon wrapping up, and informing our viewers of what you're seeing as it relates to budget, joint health care, JLARC. You've got several areas, but what if you started some with the budget? What do you see as some of the challenges or opportunities that you all will be having?
Well, David, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me back to your program. I certainly enjoy it, and it's kind of a double-edged sword since I live just 8 miles from the Capitol. I'm sort of in the middle of things off and on, but still trying to do the part-time citizen legislature. Well, you know, today is the 17th. It's the day that our governor comes before the joint money committees of the legislature and delivers his budget proposal, his budget amendments for this year. Virginia runs on a biennial, a 2-year budget, so we really did a very comprehensive budget last year, which is still in effect. But the governor has initiatives and things that he has particular interest in, and so one of the things that goes on in this cycle is that in these so-called short sessions, we're going to hear from the governor, and he's going to present what he calls his budget amendments. We know that he has a keen interest, particularly in education, particularly K through 12 this year, and also transportation. And you have to commend him for some things he's done. He asked each of his agencies to look at their budgets and come up with places where they think they could save some money up to about 4%. I'll just remind folks that the other thing he did was that as the end of the fiscal year, last July, came around, one of the things that he had teed up was actually a bonus for state employees that was really triggered by their performance and their ability to save money within their budget. So I have to give him credit for the way he's done his budgeting overall. But I think we're going to hear today as he presents this that he wants to have an initiative in the K through 12 education tied to teachers, tied to getting the teachers some increased compensation. But along with that, and depending on whether the General Assembly can go along and pass some legislation which will incentivize teachers to really do a very good job, and so it'll to some degree be an opportunity to improve K through 12 overall. And I think we're all looking with keen interest at that, and something that hopefully we'll be able to support. Transportation, of course, is our tremendous challenge in Virginia. You know, Virginia has the 3rd largest transportation system in the country. If you look at DOT's, Departments of Transportation, we have the 3rd largest DOT in the country. You don't necessarily think about that. Virginia is a good-sized state, but it's not a huge state. And the reason for that is that Virginia has made a policy decision that we're going to take care of all of the roads in the state. And so there are a couple of exceptions. You know, cities and towns do their own roads, and I'm proud to say I live in a county.
That's right. Your county who does Henrico.
That's exactly.
Right. So
Henrico County has gotten about $8,000 per lane mile per year for their maintenance. But what we're seeing statewide is that the maintenance, there are 2 funds, and rightly so, the state has to take care of the roads it's already built, maintenance, before it can build new roads. So the maintenance fund is eroding the ability to build new highways, and that's a huge problem, particularly in Hampton Roads in Northern Virginia. So I think you'll see the governor come up with some initiative to try to deal with that. And of course, we always have the fights about how to do that, whether you do raises in the gas tax or index in the gas tax or some per mile driven, which is a logical way to do it, but it's not very savvy because it's got the same flaws that the car tax had, that citizens have to strike that check every so often, which is hard for a lot of folks to do. But I think you'll see a good faith effort for the folks to try to get together and look at that. You know, the Senate is very dug into not using not a penny of the so-called general fund, which is obviously general tax revenue, for transportation, with the argument being that it takes from other things, and that certainly is a credible argument. I think the practicality is that, you know, monies can be moved around, and we've already built Route 58 with down in Southside Virginia with general fund money, so that horse is kind of out of the barn in the big picture. So it's sort of a matter of whether you can see the sides maybe get together on a compromise.
That's going to be the challenge, and the sides that you referred to really between the House and the Senate. The primary sides, and the governor, right, to be sure, as well. And you serve on the Appropriations Committee, as we want our viewers to know, and so you'll be right in the thick of things at that. You will.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the other thing that I think folks should remember is that what happens in Virginia is linked at the hip to what's going on up in Washington right now. And Virginia is a unique state. We have a huge military presence, and we have a huge Department of Homeland Security presence. Tremendous number of the contracts that were let for Homeland Security came out of Northern Virginia, and the Fairfax, Northern Virginia area has been a huge economic engine to Virginia's budget. And what we've been told now is that if we can't get some sort of resolution to this fiscal cliff and the long-standing debt issues in Washington, that the bond agencies, these folks that Moody's and Fitch that give us ratings, if they downgrade the United States, they will downgrade Virginia, and we can do nothing about it. So it's clearly something that goes from federal to state to local. And we see that in our localities now, because our localities are sort of trailing along on these funding streams. And so we see a lot of localities now who have got real constraints in their budgets that they are also having to deal with.
You reminded our viewers initially that we're having a conversation on December 17th. They're seeing the program a few days later, and so we'll be closer to that time that we'll be looking for some resolution at the U.S. Capitol before we know just what's happening here in Virginia.
Yeah, you know, we lived through this and learned from it back in the when we had the 2009, 2010, the ARRA, the big stimulus package that the federal government passed. And so the other thing that's kind of unique about Virginia is that there are a lot of states who start their General Assembly sessions early. But Virginia is on a very tight timeline. We're out of here the 23rd of February, or thereabouts. It's that Saturday, the third Saturday in February. So we really have to make our decisions sometimes with not a whole lot of knowledge about exactly what they're going to do in Washington. And I guess there are a couple of ways you can do that. We have in the past made provisions, sort of language that allows us some flexibility. The governor can certainly make decisions about how monies are spent within some constraints of the Constitution. And, you know, if we need to, we can always come back for a day and deal with some of these things. But we've certainly, some of this is getting resolved. We have I'm in healthcare, so we've had our two major issues in healthcare, one of which is the what's called the health insurance exchanges, and the other is this expansion of the Medicaid budget. So I think we've pretty much made our decision on the exchanges to go ahead and let the federal government run those, if you will. I think the advantage of that is that, well, they'll certainly pay for it, but also since they make the rules anyway, I think so long as we protect what we can as far as data and control, that I'm real comfortable with that decision.
So the other issue, you are obviously in healthcare, a physician, and also Joint Commission on Healthcare and the Health Committee in the House, the Health Subcommittee, and Appropriations. So any projections on this other somewhat thorny issue?
Well, framing up the Medicaid expansion is sort of like this. This is a great opportunity. It's laudable. It would get lots of low-income folks very needed health care. But I think you have to, on balance, understand that today the biggest driver in our state budget is Medicaid the way it is today without an expansion. And so we're dealing with a system which is, I think lots of folks would agree, not a terribly efficient system right now. It's got some flaws in it. I've heard some interesting stories from Southwest Virginia about the way the care is delivered, where folks have to ride in a cab 2 or 3 hours to get to the dentist. And so expanding an inefficient system is maybe not the wisest use. What a lot of states are doing, and what we're doing too, is behind the scenes we're trying to do some negotiations with the Medicaid folks at CMS, Center for Medicare Services, to see if we can get some flexibility. These are what's called waivers. In other words, you get an exemption from the standard set of rules if you can do something that's more efficient or a better quality or more innovative in how you use your dollars. Right now, there are a lot of rules in Medicaid. They call that maintenance of effort. You can't change anything unless you get a permission from them. So really, today in Medicaid, there are only a couple of ways we can get our budget in order. One is just you cut the prices that you give to hospitals and providers, or you just reduce the number of people you're serving. What we're seeing in healthcare now is there's lots and lots of schooling up of networks, of more efficient ways to deliver care. So we're seeing lots of other states go and talk to CMS about an exchange or a deal, if you will, where they'll relax some of their rules. But in exchange for that, we'll agree to go ahead and cover more people and expand our program in general.
So is that something that gets worked out before the end of February? Or does that extend on into another?
I think that depends.
Yes.
I know that our Secretary of Health and Human Services, a guy named Bill Hazel, is actually an orthopedist. He's been real busy. They have been doing a lot of healthcare reform initiatives, so they're already up and running on things that they could do.
Right.
And they have an innovations group that's actually housed at the Chamber of Commerce. So they've got sort of a marriage of the business community trying to get on board with this, because whatever system you can develop that does a better job would work for private industry as well as possibly the other side. So I think you won't see us jump into this with both feet in a big way, because obviously it's a huge commitment. But I think we would very much like to do it, and I think we would like to do it in a way that's maybe more innovative and at the end of the day would provide better quality and better efficiency.
Dr. OBannon, Delegate OBannon, thanks again for being on This Week in Richmond. You've really helped inform our viewers, and we'll just urge them to stay tuned on these issues you're talking about.
It'll be an interesting session, and either way, we'll be gone by the end of February.
Yes. Thank you, sir. I'd like to welcome Delegate Jimmy Massey to This Week in Richmond. We have been working to get you on the program and so delighted you could be on here at the end of December and to tell our viewers about some of what you see coming up in this upcoming session. You serve the Henrico County area, and this program is seen statewide, so some of our viewers will be seeing you for the first time in other parts of the state. So thanks for being here. So what do you see as the big opportunities and challenges that you will have this upcoming session?
Well, David, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I've been hard to get a hold of. I think, you know, David, this morning we're going to get the governor's budget amendments. You know, Virginia, we do a 2-year budget. We're in the middle of that 2-year budget. So we're going to get some budget amendments today from the governor. I mean, you know, the economy and job creation is #1 on our minds all the time. It continues to be. We are very fortunate in Virginia that Virginia is, you know, the best managed state, the best state to do business in, 4th best state to raise a child in, have the finest system of public higher education, and our unemployment rate is, you know, 5.6, 5.7 when the national is 7.9. So Virginia is doing relatively better than the rest of the nation, but we need to remain focused on the economy and job creation. So I think that's going to be our primary focus. Secondarily, the governor's going to have, and us in partnership with the governor, we're going to be focused on K-12, and then we're going to have a discussion on transportation. I'm not sure we're going to get a lot done on transportation this year just because here we are 3 weeks before the session. We haven't seen the governor's plan. Senator Watkins came up with a plan a couple of weeks ago. But I want to applaud the governor and Senator Watkins. We do need to have a broad and deep, thorough discussion of transportation, and I think we do need to focus on transportation long term. I'm just not sure we can do it in 3 weeks in a short session. You know, it's a huge issue. Probably needs a little broader and deeper discussion than what we can get done by the end of this session.
Well, what about you serve on a subcommittee on tax preferences and then tax reform?
Right.
Where is that in the process right now?
Well, you know, there's been at the margins we've been nibbling at discussing tax reform, and I think we need to look. I think that's one of the things I'm hopeful that the next governor of Virginia, hopefully Ken Cuccinelli, will be focused on is tax reform. And within tax reform, we can also look at, I think, the transportation piece of that. So they really go hand in hand. We really haven't had comprehensive tax reform in the state of Virginia in a long time. Again, I think we want to come at it from the economic growth, job creation. You know, what is the optimal tax structure to maximize economic growth and job creation in the state of Virginia? So I think we need to have that discussion. And, you know, it'll probably go somewhat along the lines of maybe thinking about broadening the sales tax to everybody, including services. That creates a big gusher of revenue. And then, you know, I think we want to take that gusher of revenue and, like I would do as a business person, and invest it in a revenue neutral way that would create economic growth and job creation. Maybe we eliminate BPOL. Maybe we eliminate machinery and tools. I know that makes my localities a little bit nervous, but we would probably figure out a way to reimburse them for, you know, what they lost there in a different way. We could lower the sales tax. If we broaden it to a lot of people, including the services, we could lower it. We could also lower, you know, the income tax rate from 5 3/4. Maybe we could eliminate the bottom rung. And then we could also do something with the, you know, on transportation there. You know, some of that money, you know, maybe in conjunction with messing with, you know, revising the gas tax, we can generate some more funds for transportation. But all of that in a revenue neutral, economic growth focused way. So that's sort of some of the discussions that we're having. That also is a very big issue.
Yes.
And so it's going to take I think it's going to take the next governor, you know, focusing on it and leading on it, and I'm hopeful that that's going to be Ken Cuccinelli, and I'm hoping to work with him on that. So.
You know, you not only serve on the Appropriations Committee, and then you're right in the midst of all this, but on JLARC, the Joint Legislative Audit Review Commission.
Right.
And as you were just speaking, I was wondering, you know, it's almost like there needs to be in addition to the next governor, there needs to be some legislative work on trying to figure this whole thing out.
You know, JLARC, we've actually done, you know, JLARC did I mean, part of the tax preferences subcommittee that you referred to is, you know, there was a JLARC study done. Senator Howell, good friend of mine in the Senate, Janet Howell from Northern Virginia, had a study resolution in. So, you know, we have a lot of tax credits that have been in place a very long time. And, you know, you need to review those things on an ongoing basis. Say, are they working or are they not working? You know, which ones are working, which ones are not working. So, and JLARC also did, at my behest, you know, a couple of years ago, a corporate income tax study. We have a 6% corporate income tax rate. And that, again, back in my prior discussion, so they did a comprehensive study of the corporate income tax. And my prior discussion, maybe we could buy down that corporate income tax rate a little bit. So JLARC has been very involved with the corporate income tax study, with the tax preferences study. So maybe there's some other work that they need to do as well. But we do have a lot of the pieces. We just need to kind of put them all together.
That's what I was thinking as you described it, that if you get those pieces together,
right.
You know, hopefully by the 2014 session, to be able to work some on this.
Yeah, I would hope so. Again, it's going to take, tax reform is always tough because, you know, you're talking about some people paying more, some people paying less. But again, I want to emphasize that what Jimmy Massie's thinking about in a revenue neutral way, but to create a tax code that incentivizes economic growth and job creation. So we take all those pieces and put them together with a governor in 2014. Maybe we can get something going.
So in the short term then, in this short session coming up,
right,
that one that you're scheduled to adjourn before February ends,
yeah.
what are you envisioning some of the things, what you'll be working on, or your colleagues, or what do you think may be doable in this short run?
Well, I think the governor has I think the governor has a very laudable K-12 focus this year. You know, he's done a lot of work, and he had a group go to Washington, a group go to New Orleans. I sit on the education committee. You know, he had a pretty aggressive K-12 package last year. So I think, you know, other than economic growth and job creation, which we've done a lot on, and we got a lot of results to show, I think the K-12 agenda of the governor's is going to be our primary focus in this short session. You saw he proposed a 2% raise for teachers statewide. He's going to propose some reforms to the, you know, the contract, the continuing contract situation. We're going to have some we're going to have a little pilot program to try to, based on the Salem schools model about, you know, strategic compensation, which I think is good. You know, we're going to do a little experimentation and see if we can't incentivize teachers. I think teachers tend, you know, they're motivated by helping kids, but, you know, everybody's motivated by compensation a little bit too. So I think we're going to have a very aggressive K through 12 agenda, and then I think we're going to get the transportation issue discussion started in a significant way. I don't think we're going to get a lot of finishing there, my personal opinion, but we'll get it. You got to start the discussion.
Right, right. Going back to JLARC, where you serve, in your recent meeting, you all had received a report about trying to get localities to cooperate more, and incentivizing them. Do you see anything that may be happening in that? It seems to be a challenging issue.
Yeah, I don't see us, I mean, you know, we just got the JLARC report. You know, those issues, that's a big issue as well. It probably needs a little more time to study and think through. I don't think there's any question. We have just a lot of duplication in the state. If you think about just the locality where we live, you know, you have the city of Richmond, you know, Henrico wraps around it, and Chesterfield on the bottom. There is a lot of cooperation that goes on. I will tell you, you know, my district lies entirely within Henrico, and there is a lot of cooperation that goes on, and therefore I think we're saving the taxpayers money, delivering better service and saving taxpayers. Does that mean there's not more things that we can do? I think they probably are, but it's going to take a little while post the JLARC study, I think, to digest the JLARC study and figure out what we can do. And it's going to be different all over the state too, Dave.
Right.
You know, it's going to be a different for Northern Virginia than it is for Southwest Virginia or Hampton Roads or Central Virginia. So.
You know, it seems like in the education movement, there's a lot of emphasis on STEM, on the science area, and career and technical, and looks like that'd be something that'd be a part of that package.
Yeah,
also.
Well, we've always, you know, in the governor's higher ed package, you know, we've been incentivizing STEM. I mean, you know, technology, science, technology, engineering, and math. That's the future. And so technology is driving just a lot of change, and we want to be sure that Virginia's children, in K-12 and in higher education, we want to have them in the vanguard of education with respect to that change. So we are very focused on that, and very focused on delivering at the K-12 and the higher education level, you know, the education that the kids need to compete at that level. Any
particular bills that you're going to be carrying that you looking for support from around the Commonwealth on?
I'm going to have a little bit of a quiet session this year, David. I got 7 bills passed this past year, and you know, as you well know, you've been around here long enough. It takes, you know, it takes 2 or 3 years to get something significant passed. We're going to have a gubernatorial election next year. So, but in the meantime, I'm going to be focused on this K-12 agenda, on keeping Virginia the best place to do business in. I am leading a little work group to study our board, you know, with the issues at the University of Virginia in June. The speaker asked me to sort of have a little work group within our caucus to oversee any reforms that might be needed to the boards of visitors, and I'm working with Delegate Landis and a number of others, Delegate Rust, and I think overall our Board of Governance, our governance issues in Virginia, our Board of Visitors governance issues are in really good shape, but there's probably 1 or 2 little things that we can do to make it even better. And I would tell you, Virginia has the finest system of public higher education in the country. And so, you know, that's a lot to be thankful for, but it's not perfect. So we're going to probably tweak it a little bit this year.
It's going to be a delightful, interesting, challenging session, particularly for citizen legislators such as you, who are balancing everything else that you're doing. So we really appreciate your being on This Week in Richmond and emphasizing the areas that you have for our viewers. And we'll look forward to getting you back another time and as we move on toward 2014 and talking about issues coming up then. So thank you very much, Delegate Jimmy Massey.
Thank you, David. It's always a pleasure to be able to communicate with my constituents and my customers. That's the way I look at it, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, promoting the free enterprise system to enhance economic competitiveness. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.